Welcome to Nerdy Psychology, where your mind's not as messy as it seems. We break it down with a little curiosity and make sense of your thoughts and your themes. So be curious, stay kind, keep your mind nerdy.
When people think about stress or anxiety, they usually imagine panic, racing thoughts, fast heartbeat, feeling overwhelmed. But sometimes stress can look very different. Sometimes stress looks like emotional numbness or exhaustion or brain fog, feeling disconnected or struggling to care about things you normally care about, feeling like your brain just checked out. And a lot of people experience this, start wondering, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel so flat? Why can't I just snap out of this? But psychologically, this can actually be a part of a survival response called nervous system shutdown. And today on Nerdy Psychology, we're talking about why chronic stress can sometimes push the nervous system from anxiety into emotional shutdown, and what response actually looks like, and why numbness is so misunderstood. Hi, I'm Dr. Angel, a mental health professional and the creator of Nerdy Psychology, where we break down mental health and human behaviors in ways that actually make sense. If you're enjoying Nerdy Psychology Explained in a relatable way, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's jump on in. What nervous system shutdown looks like. Because nervous system shutdown happens when stress becomes so overwhelming or chronic or prolonged that the brain and the body essentially start conserving energy and pulling inward. And this can look like those feelings of numbness and exhaustion, chronically dissociating, low motivation, difficulty concentrating, difficulty focusing, can't plan, can't problem solve, zoning out, withdrawing socially, feeling detached from yourself and from others, and just struggling to feel joy, or just completely feeling emotionally offline. Some people describe this as like feeling emotionally flat, or I just don't feel like myself, or I feel like I'm just going through the motions. One reason this response gets misunderstood is because people assume if I'm not panicking, well, I must be okay. But shutdown is still a stress response. It's just a very different kind. So the psychology behind it. So we're going to nerd out for a second because, well, we're on Nerdy Psychology and your nervous system has multiple survival responses. Most people know fight or flight. But there are also responses like freeze and shutdown, collapse, and sometimes fawn responses. When stress first activates the nervous system, many people experience hyperarousal, this energy, this anxiety, this tension that happens, racing thoughts, hypervigilant, being very aware. But if stress becomes chronic, overwhelming, or emotionally inescapable, the nervous system can eventually shift into conservation mode. And basically, your brain is saying, this is way too much. We can't stay this activated forever. So instead of speeding up, the system starts slowing down. This can happen during burnout, chronic stress, trauma, depression, grief, emotional overwhelm, caregiving exhaustion, prolonged emotional survival states. Now, importantly, shutdown, it's not laziness, and it's not weakness. It's often the nervous system attempting to protect itself from overload. I get people who walk in my office and they'll tell me, Dr. Angel, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just lazy, man. I can't find my motivation anymore. And what they're usually dealing with in those moments is this emotional shutdown. And in many ways, numbness can actually be the brain trying to reduce that emotional intensity. And honestly, a lot of high functioning people don't even realize they're in shutdown because they continue working, caregiving, showing up, functioning externally, while internally feeling emotionally disconnected and so depleted. And this shows up in everyday ways. And maybe you just stop responding to messages because your brain just feels overloaded. Or maybe tasks that used to feel simple, man, now they just feel mentally impossible. Maybe you just sit down to relax, but instead of feeling at peace, you just feel empty. Or maybe you used to feel emotionally expressive and now you're just tired all the time. Or maybe you're so overwhelmed for so long that your brain eventually just stops being you and acting the way it used to. And a lot of people in nervous system shutdowns quietly tell themselves, I should be handling this better. Meanwhile, their nervous system is screaming, I need a break. I need recovery. So what actually helps? Now, healing from shutdown is usually not about forcing yourself to try harder because many shutdown states are rooted in that depleted nervous system. So a few things that can help. One, stop shaming yourself for being tired and exhausted. This is huge. Stop using I should, I need, I'm lazy. Self-criticism often increases that stress activation rate. So instead of, why am I like this? Try asking, what is my nervous system? What's it been carrying lately? This shift matters psychologically. To focus on gentle regulation instead of perfection. When people feel shut down, they often pressure themselves to suddenly become highly productive again, making task lists and to-do lists. But nervous systems recover gradually. Small things matter. Things like hydration and sleep and nutrition and sunlight and movement, routines, connection, grounding, reducing overload, and moments of actual emotional safety. Tiny regulation steps, they count. And 3, understand that numbness is still a feeling state. Many people think numbness is, I feel nothing. But psychologically, numbness is often a protective response to feeling too much for too long. Your nervous system may not be broken. It might just be overwhelmed. Remember, nervous system shutdown does not mean you're lazy, you're weak, you're failing. For many people, it's a survival response that developed after prolonged stress, overwhelmed, or emotional depletion. Your nervous system is trying to protect you the best way it knows how. And healing often begins with understanding that recovery is not weakness. It's necessary. So I'm curious, when you get overwhelmed, do you become anxious or do you shut down? Let me know in the comments. And as always, stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy. That's a wrap. See you next week.
So be curious, stay kind.